Here's how to solo complete the main Easter egg on the tomb. Now this is my extended guide, which is a more detailed step-by-step walkthrough covering everything in one video. If you're already familiar with completing some extra side quests, such as crafting the ice staff or getting a free Aether Wrench and upgrade crystal, then you may want to check out my regular solo guide, which is linked down below. Now before we start, as usual, I would highly recommend running with the ASG as your main weapon. This is because the boss fight requires a bullet weapon, so anything like the ray gun or explosive weapons such as the GS-45 will not work. So here's my current loadout if you'd like to take a look, but besides that, the only thing I would recommend is Aether Shroud as your field upgrade with an extra charge, and the Dying Wish augment for a quick revive. So with that being said, the first thing you'll need to do is follow the indicated hints on screen to activate the Dark Aether Nexus and Pack-a-Punch. After that's done, you'll then have to wait until round 8 for a Shock Mimic to spawn. Now if you have time to kill, I'd recommend doing the free Pack-a-Punch Easter egg. All you have to do is shoot this specific rock when facing the red gateway in the Dark Aether, which will begin a small challenge. You'll now notice that 5 rocks of all different sizes will start to orbit around you at various speeds. You need to shoot all 5 of them in quick succession, and if done correctly, you'll be given a free Pack-a-Punch crystal as well as a Cryo Freeze ammo mod. I'd recommend using these on your ASG. Anyway, back to round 8, go ahead and kill that Shock Mimic so it drops a Monocle. You'll want to pick that up, then make your way over to the Tombs area to find and shoot a Flaming Crystal, which will spawn in one of these 4 locations. After about 45 seconds, the crystal will reappear at one of those other locations, and you'll just continue to shoot it until the crystal finally appears directly across from this mural of a bull. The bull will then be marked with a series of Roman numerals that you'll need to shoot in order from 1 to 8. Now since these have a bit of a stylized design, here's a simple key you can use if you're having any issues with this. Keep in mind though, the placement of these symbols will be different every game. Anyway, if done correctly, your screen will go white, and then you'll need to survive a 5-part lockdown against a handful of enemies. You can actually leave this area if you absolutely need to, it'll just kill off everything that spawned, but luckily when you step back into the room, the lockdown should start again from where you left off. And after it's complete, you'll be given a max ammo along with the staff part. Now for the final part, go ahead and make your way to the opposite side of the map in the Neolithic Catacombs area, where you'll need to, once again, find and shoot a Flaming Crystal until it moves to this location and illuminates another series of Roman numerals. This time, there will be 10 numbers instead of 8. Shooting the numbers in the correct order will activate another lockdown, after which you'll be given the staff's headpiece. Now before moving on, I'd recommend waiting until at least round 11 to freeze these 2 waterfalls beside the green gateway with a Cryo Freeze weapon. This will award you with a free Epic Aether Wrench, which is going to be really helpful during the remaining steps. So once you're ready, go ahead and make your way to the center of the Dark Aether and interact with this destroyed monument. You'll then have to protect the staff from purple-eyed zombies for about 60 seconds. Now if you place down a sentry turret right on the edge of the monument so it's facing the staff, it'll pretty much do all the protecting for you. Meanwhile, all you have to do is train up the rest of the zombies and kill off some of those annoying parasites and vermin. But it's still a good idea to keep an eye on the staff's health bar. If you do happen to fail this challenge or leave the Dark Aether, you can simply try it again on the next round. Once the challenge is complete, you'll then be able to collect the Staff of Ice, and now we can finally upgrade it. To start this off, we're first going to reposition some of those Flaming Crystals again. So make your way to the subterranean temple and look for that area's crystal. It can actually spawn in one of these 6 locations, but we need it in the spot just before the entrance to the stamina room. So go ahead and shoot the crystal to move it to that location, then we'll move on to the next crystal. This one doesn't really need to be moved since all the locations are pretty close, you just need to take note of where it is. And finally, moving back into the Tombs area, again you'll want to make sure that crystal is still in its previous location or somewhere close by. So once you're ready, head back to that first crystal and shoot it with the ice staff. You'll then need to quickly shoot those next 2 crystals I just showed you in under 10 seconds. Stamina Up and PhD are really helpful during this, and if done correctly, you should get a quote from Sir Archibald. Now you can actually do this with any 3 sets of crystals. It doesn't need to be the ones I just showed you, but those are the ones that I found the easiest. Anyway, after that, head into the Dark Aether, and you're now going to look for a glowing symbol on 3 floating rocks. I like to look for them while standing at each gateway just to get a better view from different angles, but you can also spot 1 or 2 from the center near that destroyed monument. When you find a symbol, you'll want to shoot it with the ice staff so the rock floats down closer to the ground, then take note of that symbol, either by writing it down or by taking a picture. To help remember them, here are some keywords that I associate with each symbol. A link to this image can also be found below if you'd like to save it for later. Now, once you've shot all 3 rocks, one of the 4 surrounding gateways will automatically close. You'll want to take note of which one it was, then exit the Dark Aether and visit that closed gateway, where you'll now notice a series of symbols have appeared. so all you need to do is use the ice staff to shoot whatever 3 symbols you had on those floating rocks. This can be done in any order, and it should cause the gateway to open back up, but you'll want to check the floor at the base of the portal to see if you've done this correctly. If you don't see those 3 symbols you just shot, that means one or more of them was incorrect, and you won't want to use the gateway because it'll drop you from the sky on the other end. If you did get this wrong, just go ahead and flip the round, then you'll be able to enter the symbols again. Now when you do it correctly, the gateway should drop you on top of a floating rock where you'll need to interact with a purple orb. This is going to start a small escort challenge. The orb will travel along the outer half of the Dark Aether Nexus, and you just need to move along with it. It'll also periodically spawn zombies, mimics, doppelghasts, and even an amalgam, but technically you are not required to actually kill anything during this step. If you do happen to run too far away, you will fail the escort and have to retry it next round. Only this time, you'll have to input those 3 symbols now on a different closed gateway. Other than that, the orb will eventually travel into the destroyed monument, which you'll then be able to interact with to finally complete the staff's upgrade. Now we can start making progress on the actual Easter egg. So go ahead and make your way to the Vermin statue at the base of this giant rock formation, which is just to your left if you're facing the red gateway. You'll want to shoot the statue's blue crystal using the staff's alternate fire mode by pressing either B on keyboard or left on the D-pad. This will let you collect the crystal's energy, after which you'll then take the blue gateway back to spawn, where you'll find another Vermin statue. Go ahead and interact with it to begin a 60-second trial against a wave of Vermin. The ice staff is pretty much the only thing you'll need for this, so just keep on shooting ice storms until the statue has collected enough souls. After it's done, go ahead and pick the energy back up, then return it to the original Vermin statue in the Dark Aether. But you won't be able to use that same blue gateway, so you'll have to take either the yellow or green one nearby. You'll also have to be very careful during this because the energy now has a health bar, meaning you can only take about 4 hits before it's destroyed, which will force you to repeat this part on the next round. Anyway, with that first trial now complete, you'll then pretty much repeat that same process for 3 more statues. The next one is the Parasite trial with the yellow crystal. Collect its energy, then take the yellow gateway to the stamina room. For this one, you'll be swarmed by a wave of zombies and parasites, some of which will be glowing purple. Upon killing these parasites, they'll drop essence that you'll need to collect and deliver to the Parasite statue. Most of the time, the ice staff works just fine for this trial, but I found that the ASG helps kill those parasites just a bit faster since you are still on a timer. Anyway, after you've done that about 10 times, you'll be able to collect the energy, then go ahead and run over to the red gateway right next door to complete the trial. Next is the Doppleghast trial with the green crystal. Collect its energy, then take the green gateway to the Speed Cola room. Now, if you're unable to actually collect a crystal's energy, it's most likely because of a Vermin round. So go ahead and just flip over to the next one and you should be able to collect it. Anyway, for this third trial, again, all you really need to do is use the ice staff to constantly freeze out anything that spawns. The trial statue will also shoot out these numerous beams to spawn Doppelghasts, but as long as you avoid stepping inside the circles, you won't be affected by their attacks. Once it's complete, collect the energy and again, run over to the red gateway. Now, if you can manage it, just before you travel to the Dark Aether, go ahead and use your staff to shoot this hidden max ammo in the subterranean temple. This will give you more alternate ammo to complete the 4th trial since we're only given 3 shots by default. And last but not least is the Amalgam trial with the red crystal. So collect its energy, then take the red gateway and make your way back to the quick revive area. This trial will spawn an Amalgam, so I'd first recommend activating the free insta-kill outside the map to help complete this. Now you'll notice that as soon as zombies start to spawn, one of them will become linked to the Amalgam, which will render it immune to damage. You'll first have to kill the zombie that's protecting the Amalgam to destroy its shield. But as usual, using the ice staff can take care of that problem pretty quickly. Finally, once it's complete, collect the energy, then run over and take either the green or yellow gateway back to the Dark Aether. With all 4 trials now complete, a beam of energy will shoot out towards a collapsed bridge, which you can then interact with to open up the boss fight. Now before jumping in, here's what I'd recommend. As I previously mentioned, to damage this boss you'll need a bullet-based weapon. So your best bet is to try and get your ASG upgraded as close as possible to Legendary with Tier 3 Pack-a-Punch. Both are not absolutely required, but they will definitely help. I eventually swap out my Cryo Freeze for Light Mend as well to help take out Doppelghast more easily. You should also have a full charge on your Aether Shroud, maybe some Monkey Bombs, all of your perks, Tier 3 armor, and a Mutant Injection. I never really use every single one of these items, but it never hurts to have multiple options if you're stuck in a bad situation. So once you think you're ready, go ahead and interact with the Sentinel artifact at the end of the bridge to begin the final encounter. As usual, this fight consists of 3 main stages. For this first one, the artifact is going to slowly fire out a beam of energy while simultaneously spinning around and rising into the air. Now, throughout this entire fight, you'll need to try and avoid getting hit by these beams as they will stop you dead in your tracks, delete almost half of your armor, and also temporarily prevent you from using Score Streak streaks as well as your field upgrade. But during this first stage, all you really need to do is crouch down right next to that center altar and continuously charge ice storms. This will protect you from the oncoming zombies while you wait for the artifact to first rise into the air, then lower back down, and rise again for the final time. Once the artifact hits that second peak, it'll stop moving, which will be indicated by a sudden drop in your game sound like so. As soon as you hear that or see the artifact become solid, shoot down a protective storm, then switch to your ASG and fire away until the artifact splits into two. This will spawn a max ammo, and then you're going to essentially repeat that same process, now just with 2 artifacts. So stay crouched, use the ice staff to take care of the zombies, then once the artifacts have risen for a second time, wait for the Q, then fire away with your ASG. If you're fast enough, you can actually damage and split both of them to skip right to the final part of stage 1, where there will now be 4 artifacts. So collect the max ammo, stay crouched, and repeat the process until they all rise up for the second time. Again, once you hear the cue, shoot down a storm, then you'll just need to focus on any one artifact. If you deal enough damage, it'll split, and you'll finally progress to stage 2. Now this is where things can get a little more intense. The orange and blue copies of that newly split artifact are each going to attach to a buffed zombie, which will deal the same damage and slowing effect as the center beams if they hit you. This is where Dying Wish on Quick Revive comes in handy, so you'll have a brief moment to get away without instantly being downed. During the second stage, your main focus will be on the orange artifact. The blue ones are still very dangerous, but they are essentially just decoys. So here's the strategy that worked best for me. If you head inside that outer hallway on the bottom floor, each end will have these large rock platforms. For this first part with the zombie, I like to throw down a monkey bomb, then shoot as many storms as I can while avoiding any mimics, doppelghasts, and amalgams that will now start spawning. You want to try and avoid the buff zombie as carefully as possible while keeping it inside your ice storms. If this area gets a bit too hectic with all the other spawns, you can always run down to the next platform to continue there. Anyway, eventually all of those ice storms are going to kill the buff zombie, which will drop the Sentinel artifact. Once that happens, shoot down another storm if needed, then fire away with your ASG. If enough damage is dealt, the artifact will split and travel back to the center to now spawn a buffed Doppleghast. You'll also be given another max ammo, but you'll still need to be very careful not to get zapped by those center beams. So moving on to the Doppleghast, this is probably the most difficult enemy out of this whole fight. The Doppelghasts are very fast, so this time around your main objective is to stay ahead of it. What I did was try and fire a storm as I approached and left each platform. Then I just kept repeating that while trying to keep my distance. You will also have to deal with the other Doppelghast spawns, but that is where Lightman comes in handy so you can take care of those more easily. It's also worth noting that you should try and keep an eye on these buffed enemies and their health bars as much as possible. If one of them ends up dying somewhere and you don't notice, you'll miss the damage window, which will cause the artifact to fully respawn that enemy. So anyway, after you kill the Doppelghast, same idea, shoot down a storm, then destroy the dropped artifact. Next, it'll spawn a buffed Mimic. The strategy for this one is pretty much the same, just get ahead of the horde so you can prep a platform with damage before the Mimic gets there. And once it's dead, protect yourself with a storm, then destroy the artifact. And finally, the last enemy will be a buffed Amalgam. Again, keep moving, run it through your ice storms, and take out as many Doppelghasts as possible to ease up on some of the chaos. Don't forget you also have your Aether Shrouds, maybe one last Monkey Bomb, and the Mutant Injection if you need it. Now, if you're still having issues with this second stage, I'm going to be uploading my full boss fight gameplay so you can watch the entire run unedited. I'll go ahead and include that link down below. So, after successfully killing that last Amalgam and damaging the artifact, you'll then progress to stage 3, which is actually fairly easy compared to the previous one. You may have to take out any remaining zombies from the previous wave, but what'll happen is all 8 copies of the artifact will fire beams of energy to power up the 9th one in the very center, which will eventually travel over to this door on the arena's upper level. As soon as it's placed into this spot above the door, you're going to shoot down a storm, then put as much damage into the artifact as possible. If done successfully, the artifact will return to its original state, which you can then interact with back down at the altar to add the previous map's amulet. After that, the final cutscene will soon begin to play. Good luck, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.